Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I do scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today I'm going to be working on a layout using this collage of photos that I'm creating right now. There's going to be some mixed media on this page, and I'm also going to be working from a challenge that I created for myself using the fortune teller that came from my Jumpstart Your Mojo video, which I will link right here in the information section and in a card. So I am starting by matting all of my photos into this collage, and my photos are printed at 4x6 and by 2x3, and so they do fit together to be the same height here. And I did trim down my 4x6. It was printed with borders, and so I trimmed it down so that the whole thing could be matted on the same white cardstock that was just a scrap laying around my room. This is the photo and the other two photos. It's basically a photo of my daughter moving into her new place. She's moving into the city to be closer to the university which she attends, and she bought herself some furniture and we bought her some furniture, and this was just photos from the day when she moved in. I have a challenge on my desk, and this came from my Restart Your Mojo video. Now, this challenge requires that I use a stencil, glitter paste, 2 different fonts, chipboard, ribbon, and the theme needs to be what is cozy to you, and I went with the idea of home. I'm going to be using these 2 fonts because both of these letter sticker sets come in the Celebrate kit and add-ons. The large gold one comes in the main kit and the smaller font comes in the add-on. So I have that picked out, and this kit also comes with some ribbon. My plan is to make a ruffle out of this ribbon, and I'm going to use my sewing machine for that, but I just wanted to play around and see how it would look before I did that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work, so I put it aside for now, and I'm just going to take a look at the paper that comes in this kit, just refamiliarize myself with it and have a look at what might be appropriate as far as supporting the story that I want to tell, and also making sure that I hit on all of the elements of the challenge that I'm following. This is my own challenge that I used. I created for myself using a fortune teller, which is one of those little paper folded things that we used to use in grade school to tell our fortune. I'm using it to set out scrapbooking challenges for myself. And there is a video that I linked already in an information card. You can check it out at the beginning or at the end of this video. Ooh, I really love this paper. So I've already picked out that pink patterned paper, and I thought that this pattern paper picked up on some of the greens in the outside of the exterior of the house. I really like that black pattern paper with the flowers on it, but at this point I don't think I'm going to use it, but here it comes around again because I do have the extra pattern paper add-on and it's really tempting me. I haven't picked it out yet. I also have some scraps left over from some of the other pages I made with this kit, and I'm just picking out a few different things that I think might work with this. I'm not going to use those lined papers that I love so much that are on top of my pile of scraps there. I'm going to be using these papers here. So I'm just going to put those aside, and I ended up going with that black floral paper after all. And I'm leaving this cut apart on the top of my papers here as I put them back into my kit caddy. You guys might have seen my kit caddy if you watched my Out with the Old, In with the New video. This is where I keep all of my scrapbooking supplies beside me as I'm scrapbooking. And so I'm just playing around with how I might want to combine these papers. I'm pretty sure I want to use that pink heart pattern paper on my background because it's a nice neutral one, and I do want to do some mixed media on this because it's part of the challenge. And I'm thinking that this black paper with the floral pattern on it was a really great option for matting my photo. I think it's going to give my photo collage a good amount of presence on the page, and it's nice and bold because of the dark color relative to the other colors that I'm using here. And I'm thinking about perhaps matting my whole layout in that same paper, and if I did that, I probably should have done that first, and then I might have been able to mat this collage with the guts of this paper, but I didn't do it that way. And it turns out that the guts wouldn't have been big enough anyways for that long collage. But here I am, I cut the designer strip off of the end, and now I'm just gutting this paper so that I can use that piece inside for something else. I don't want it to go to waste. And then this paper that I've already trimmed down to 12 by 12, I took the manufacturer's strip off of it. I'm just now trimming it down to 11.5 by 11.5 so that I'll have a 1/4 of an inch border all the way around the outside edge. Both of these papers are from Chamel's main character energy collection, and everything that you're seeing in this layout came from the Celebrate kit from MercyTiara Kits. Now, I did adhere that a little crooked, and it was only a little crooked, and to be honest, I probably could have left it, but I was feeling a little finicky, so I decided to try to fix it. I ended up putting it still crooked, but just now it's crooked from top to bottom instead of from left to right. Not crooked, but it's just uneven, right? So there's a bigger border on the top than there is on the bottom, but I don't really mind. This is my favorite pattern paper on this layout, this floral one with the teals, turquoise, navy blue, and purples. I really, really love this. So this is going to be one of my strips running across the back of this. The main photo collage is very horizontal, so I'm going to add some vertical elements here to help balance off the page a little bit. And it's also going to give me an anchoring for all of my clusters of embellishments that I'll be using here. So I'm just going to use my ruler to tear these pieces down so that they're all different lengths but similar, and so that they layer nicely with one another. And at this point, I decide I better get my stenciling onto this page since this is part of the challenge. It's really the main part of the challenge. And so I'm starting with a piece of this mint tape. It's basically like Post-it note tape. Washi tape would have been fine. I just reached for washi and ended up grabbing that by mistake. And now this is the Bo Bunny glitter paste that comes in the mixed media add-on. And these palette knives also come in that add-on, and I love these. Now, this glitter paste is very, very subtle. It's white, but it goes on kind of clear. Like once it dries clear. And it almost has a bit of a snowy look to it, although that's not really what I'm going for here. If you layer it up thick enough, it does get a real crunchy, snowy look to it. And I do want some of these large oval kind of shapes. They look like brush strokes. I want some of those towards the bottom as well. So I just did my best job to line it up, and it doesn't really matter because most of it's going to be covered anyways. I added some water to my stencil because I had to step away to find my cleaning solution, and I didn't want that stencil paste to dry on my stencil. So I grabbed my cleaning solution, which includes Murphy's oil and a tiny squirt of dish detergent and water filled up into a misting bottle. And as you see, I just misted it and wiped it down, and that stencil paste came off really, really easily. Now my rag is wet from cleaning the stencil, and that damp cloth was enough to clean off my palette knife. And I was just showing that I fill my bottle just about that much with Murphy's oil before I add the water and a squirt of dish soap. I was chatting with my patrons as I did this. I was actually live streaming. And so you might see that my hands move around a lot as I chat. It's really fun scrapping with other people. They were all cooking. They weren't scrapping, which is unusual. It was making me hungry. Now, I've decided, because this is a very, very subtle pattern of glitter on, it's like a clear glitter on the pink background. So I've decided I'm going to outline all of these brush strokes using my gray pen. This is a Muji gel pen, and it's a really beautiful shade of gray. I love this shade of gray, and one of the things I really wanted to get when I went to New York recently was a gray pen. I knew I'd be hitting up a couple of different stationery stores that they don't have here in Canada, or at least not in my city, and so I was very happy to get a gray gel pen at Muji. And so as you can see, I'm just really roughly outlining all of these, and it didn't take very long for this this glitter paste to dry at all. Like I didn't even have to hit it with a heat gun. It just dried very, very quickly. So I've outlined all of those just to give them a little bit more presence on the page. And now I'm having a look at how these papers line up, and they're covering up just a wee little bit too much of my mixed media background. I do want to add another. These stencils are created for layering. So I do want to add another stencil on top of this. And I mean, you don't have to layer it this way. You could have done the flat, like the inking first, and then put the glitter paste over top, but I'm just doing it this way. So I'm going to use this. It's also brush strokes or maybe marker strokes or something that's just a smaller version of a same oval kind of a pattern. And I'm going to use this one, and I'm just looking for a stencil brush. So this is a stencil brush. This actually came in our mixed media kit for December. So this came in the Joy kit. And this stencil is awesome. I really love how, I guess what I love is how lightly the ink goes onto the page when you use this, which means that you can really layer up a lot of layers and have a lot of control over just how dark or light it is. As you can see, I keep adding more and more. And I'm actually not being all that careful to line up my stencil because you're not going to see very much of this, and it doesn't really matter to me if it's not lined up. I do want a few little bits of it to extend. My fear here is that most of this is going to be covered up, so I want to make sure I'm putting enough of it extending that you're going to be able to see a little bit of an extra little pattern there, tone on tone pink. And that will be layered over top of those glittery brush strokes. So I'm liking how that's looking, and now I'm going to add my layers so that I can see how this looks. So there we go. It's going to look something like that. And I like how you can see part of it extending at the top and on the sides and at the bottom as well. My thought here is that I will layer the ribbon along the bottom edge of that photo so that it's overlapping the photo. And I'm thinking maybe one more layer. So I've got a total of 3. This is the third stencil that came in our mixed media kit for January. No, this is the December kit. Celebrate is December. And I'd like to have this be gray. And my 2 gray options are, well, basically black and a very, very, very light gray. So I am going to use the black, but because I'm using that stencil brush, it will go on fairly light. So I'm not too worried about it. I think I can make it look pretty gray. So I tried it there in the place that would be covered by my photo and papers. And then when I realized how nice it was looking, I decided to go ahead and add it to a few different places. I'm turning it upside down sometimes so that it looks a little bit different. And I did mask off my stencil because I didn't want, it's a very small design that I'm using, and I didn't want the edge of the stencil to show or for any of the other designs on that stencil to show through as I was making this. So I have 3 different versions of a vertical line on this mixed media background. I've got the broad brush strokes, I've got the tiny little brush strokes or marker strokes, and then I have these longer thin lines as well that also look like sort of like brush strokes, I guess, or lines, marker lines or something. And I like how those show through. They have a bit of a sooty, messy look, and it kind of picks up on the day. It was, you know, like the city on a messy, rainy day. It was like it had snowed, but the snow had melted, so the roads are kind of grimy, and that mixed media picks up on that a little bit. I'm using that same gray Muji pen to outline all of my papers. That helps to pull them together. They're from different collections. They're from 2 different collections. And so that outlining pulls them all together. It also gives them a little bit of separation from one another, although they're different enough that I don't really need to outline it for that, but that's what I'm doing. So far I've got stencil and I've got glitter paste. So I'm just ticking off the items on my list as I add them to the page. I added those strips so that they were a little bit off kilter, not exactly straight. And then I'm going to glue my photo collage to those strips. Nothing is glued to the background yet because I haven't decided exactly where I want this to go. So next, let's deal with this ribbon because I have never done this before, so I have to figure out how I'm going to fold this and sew it in a way that it will end up looking like a ruffle. So as I start to figure this out, my hands are going to be in the way, but once I master it, I will move my hands over to the side a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing. But basically, I'm going to sew and then make a little ruffle so that I'm basically folding it under itself and keeping it sort of straight, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm trying to make my ruffles uneven so that it looks basically handmade. So at some point, I'm going to start keeping my hands off to the side. I do have to keep comparing it to there you go. So that's what I'm doing. See what I'm doing there? So I do have to keep comparing it to the length of the photo collage because that's where I want it to go. And yeah, I think it looks good. I'm actually really impressed with it. And I totally want to work with ribbon even more because this is a really fun way to add some texture and dimension to a page. Oh, I love the texture. I mean, the ribbon itself, it's like smooth and bumpy at the same time. It's got like a satiny, smooth texture, but it also has like a grosgrain texture. So it's really, really nice. And then once you add the thread and the stitching, I'm just showing how I also use the ribbon on another layout there. You can check out the process video for that one if you'd like. But yeah, this is a really great embellishment. I'm always looking for interesting embellishments to add to a page that are something a little bit different than die cuts and stickers and stuff. So this really works for this page. I'm really pleased with it. I ended up making it just a wee little bit too long, so I cut it down and then I also loosened the stitching around it so that it ended in a little bit more of a natural way. It didn't look like it was cut off. Now, here's something I would do differently because the wet glue did show through on the ribbon. And what I would do differently is I would run my ATG. I think the ATG would have held it fine, but if you were concerned that the ATG wouldn't be strong enough, I would run a narrow strip of score tape or terrifically tacky tape or red line tape or whatever your your dry, strong glue is that you like to use or tape that you like to use. I would basically use any kind of dry tape that you like. So I keep changing my mind about where I want to put this because I want some of the mixed media to show over on the left-hand side there where I was just pointing my fingers. I want some to show above and I want some to show below. And now here I'm going to pull out a very vital scrap room tool that we all need to have on hand when we're scrapbooking. It's a sleeve of saltine crackers. If you don't have these, they're very handy for any kind of, hunger moments in your scrap room, but also for holding things back while you do some last minute stenciling underneath of things. So I did use a different kind of brush for that. And boy, those brushes add a lot more ink than the stencil brush does, but that's okay. It's I wanted lots of ink over there because it's only a tiny little spot. So I wanted to show up. I did want to put that little bundle of letters in that corner. That's a chipboard piece, and that meets my criteria for having chipboard on the page. And there's a mailbox showing in the outside photo, and she's moving in, and I guess in theory she'll start to get her mail there and that sort of thing. So I am going to spell out the word home eventually when I show back up again. So I'm spelling out the word home with these glitter thickers that came in the kit. These thickers are amazing because they have different versions of all of the letters. And I really love the little extra ascenders and descenders. They're mostly descenders on this set. They're really, really pretty. And they just give you a little bit of variety. So my idea was that I would put home and then away from home in this second letter sticker because one of the challenges is that I have to use 2 fonts on this page. So this second puffy letter sticker is font number 2. I'm going to spell out away from, and then I'm going to change my mind about putting home in these stickers, in these little puffy stickers. And you'll see why when I get there. Now, as I'm spelling this out, I am trying to make my letter colors be random, so not a pattern. And I'm staying away from that really bright teal and also the really bright pink. I want the purple because there's purple in that patterned paper that I like so much on this page, and I would like to bring that out. And so that's what I'm doing with that. And then I noticed away from is exactly the same width as home. So I thought, instead of adding another home in the smaller letter stickers, where is it going to go? It's going to make that line wider, or else I'm going to have to put it below, and then it's going to look triangular. And so I've decided I'm going to try to spell out home again and see, because there are different O's and I'm not seeing that there's actually more O's. It looks like I've got a thinner H and a thinner O, so I wasn't sure if I would be able to actually spell out home and have a B as wide. But then I realized there's another O on the other side, the nice wide O's. And that M, look at that. I've got one M going to the right and one M going to the left, and it's very harmonious and very, very beautiful. I'm loving it. So I'm playing around with where I can put this. If I put away from in between the two homes, it's going to take up about this much space. I'm just using thin, flexible rulers here. One is a thicker alignment tool, and one is a centering ruler, and then the other one is actually a fabric cutting ruler or something. And so, yeah, I decided to put them up here. As you saw, I shifted things up in order to check out what it would look like if I put it at the bottom, and then I shifted everything down so that I could end up putting it right here. I'm going to line the bottom home along the edge of my photo collage, and then I'm just placing away from, and those slid around a little bit because they're just so tiny, they don't really stick to the ruler very well. So I just had to align them afterwards. And then the same thing with this, they shifted around a little bit. It's a little bit tricky with that dangling M. I wanted it to really hug the O, and so I just needed to, you know, scooch it around a little bit after it got on the page. Now, to help these letter thickers pop out from the page just a tiny bit, I am outlining them with my Sakura Jelly Roll 10 white gel pen. This is one of my favorite things to do, especially when I'm putting thickers on a patterned background paper. It just helps them to pop, and if it's a light layout, I'll outline them in white, and if it's a layout that uses lots of black, I might outline them in black. But I find that outlining it in white really brightens up the title, and really it pops and grabs your attention on the page. In the tiny little spots where my 10 gel pen won't fit, I'm using my 8 gel pen. It's a 0.8 gel pen. And the gel pen will go over mixed media, just go slow. And my other tip for you is to don't press too hard when you're using a gel pen, and don't go over it more than once. If you're finding that you're getting little draggy lines in your gel ink line, that might be because you're either pressing too hard or you're going over it, and it's over it multiple times. And it's very tempting to go over it multiple times because it feels like you should sometimes. It feels like maybe the pen might have skipped or something. But what I find is that I get a much better outline if I just go slow and steady and smooth and don't go back and forth. And when I do go back and forth, it tends to leave those lines. It's like empty lines in the middle of the line. If you've used gel pens, you know what I mean. It's like a little empty little rut in the middle of your gel pen ink line, and it doesn't look so pretty. So I'm trying not to forget to use that chipboard mail bundle that's all bundled up with string. That's a chipboard sticker, and I want to make sure I use that. And I also want to put a little plant here, because one of the things that inspired me to scrap this photo, when the theme was cozy, I remembered the picture, which didn't actually make it onto the page, but I do have a photo of Liv's windowsill with her plants lined up. She has 3 little cacti, and these stickers reminded me of that, and that's what made me pick this topic to scrapbook. So I wanted to make sure I put one of those potted plants on the page. And now I'm having a look at these foam stickers, and I really love this one. It says, "It's the big day." She had been looking forward to this for several months. She secured the apartment quite a while ago. It's very hard to get an apartment here. It's also very, very expensive. She's paying a whole lot of money for a single room shared with 4 other people, but it's worthwhile because it saves her 10 hours of commuting per week, which means she can either work a little bit more at Starbucks or focus more on her studies, whatever she wants to do. Those flags up at the top say, "I'm your biggest fan." And, you know, when your kid is moving out, she's taking medical science right now. And, you know, I'm her biggest fan, her dad and I. So, you know, when they move on and start taking on these big, big goals, it's, you know, like you really do feel like you're rooting for them more so than when they're doing kind of lower stakes things, you know, like moving out into an expensive apartment. And it's hard, you know, she has to think about a budget and managing her money and making sure that she gets enough hours. And of course, after Christmas, everybody's cutting back their hours. So, you know, she's going through all the stress that I went through when I was her age, trying to figure out if I can afford to keep on going to university each year and all of that. I mean, we're helping her a little bit, but she's doing great. She's very, very mature. So we're proud of her. So as you can see, I wanted to put something just behind this plant, and I grabbed, it's actually not a frame. It looks like a frame, but it's just the outside edge of a tag that was perforated that you popped out of the die cuts. And it looks like a frame, and it does a pretty good job of anchoring that plant and giving me something behind the plant to make it look like it belongs on the page. Now I'm also layering this Today piece of chipboard. So now I have 2 pieces of chipboard, so we're all clear on meeting that goal of having chipboard on my page. And I just had to use some foam tape to pop that up because I had popped up the plant. And so now the chipboard on top of it, the parts where it overhangs, it needed some foam tape to support it. I really love the idea of putting a bird here, which is, I wasn't thinking I would do this, but oh, I love this bird. He's so cute. And so I just pulled back the package so that it could look like his foot is sitting right on the edge of the package. And he looks so cute because he's looking right at her. It's like he's cheering her on from the side as well as the rest of us. Now, at this point, I'm feeling like that flag that's sticking out there all by itself, it needs something for the flagpole to be covered by, like so that it looks like it's coming out of something. So I thought about moving the "It's a Big Day" up there, but then there's too much gold together. Like I like that because it's a yellowy goldy color, it balances off with the gold in the home, in the 2 words home. So I want that down there, but now I need to find something else to put up here by the flags. So I was going to put another banner, but then it looked like too many banners. It was just too distracting. So I'm going to look through all of these die cuts, just looking for another piece. I'm going to end up going with the pink little label with the fishtail banners, edges. And I'm going to go with that because I like it. And I was looking for something that wasn't too distracting, was mostly a solid color. I mean, it's pink and gold and white, but it gives me a place to put my roller date stamp as well. So then one of my patrons was just suggesting something, and I just had to kind of pull that out and have a look at whether that would work. And I think that it's not going to work. It wasn't, she thought that it was something more wide than it was, but it was 2 that were stuck together. So next, I'm thinking I can't really have a layout about growth and development and, you know, like moving out, growing up without having some butterflies on it. So I selected the orange butterflies because I thought that they would stand out more than the other butterflies that had other similar colors on the page. And I really love the extra touch that those add because one is in each of my 3 clusters of embellishments. It really does tie tie the whole page together, those 3 butterflies really stand out because of the black on them and the white outline around the outside edges of them, and also because they're really the only orange thing on the page. Well, there might be also one of those flags might be orange, but there's not a whole lot of orange. So I really like how they look. I took some of the puffy butterflies as well and added those in a few different places. I didn't want the puffy butterflies to take away from those big butterflies, but I wanted them to rather support the idea of growth and development and change. And of course, metamorphosis and development is something that I always think of when I look at butterflies. So that's why I definitely wanted to include those on this page. Now, I wanted to ink the date in purple, and I ended up going with Gorgeous Grape from Stampin' Up, which is a fairly dark purple, but it picks up on the dark purple that's in the Y and the O in the away from. And there's also some dark purple in the centers of some of the flowers on that background paper, like not on the background paper, but on one of those strips. So I just stamped January 2nd, 2024. I used some foam tape because this has to cover over that flag there that says fan, and that's made out of foam, so I need it to be popped up to go over that. And now this is the confetti mix that comes in the Celebrate kit, and what I love about these confetti mixes is that you can selectively pick out the colors that you like and still have an assortment of sizes. So I am going to only use the black ones. This mix has a real wintry, snowy feel because there's snowflakes mixed in and there's lots of turquoise and light pink and soft white. But by selectively picking the black, it gives me a whole other look. So as you can see, I put those in 4 different places. So still in the 3 clusters, it's just that the larger cluster gets 2 of those little pairs, I guess, of confetti pieces. And one of them was upside down, so it didn't really stick properly. I'm using my Art Glitter Dries Clear Designer glue to stick these down, and I'm also using my pickup stick from We Are Memory Keepers. We carry both of those items in our shop, so if you get kits from us, make sure you add those if you need either of those items. And now I'm just thinking, let's add some journaling. So I'm using my journaling template here, and the first 3 lines of my journaling template are long lines. So I'm just going to run those lines right there. It's a perfect spot for them. And then some of that does go land on the mixed media, on the glitter paste. So I'm just using a Sharpie marker to write on the glitter paste. And then when I'm writing on plain paper, I'm switching to my Sharpie pen. So now Sharpie marker is a permanent marker and it's a slick surface writer, and it works really well on non-porous surfaces, but if you use the Sharpie marker on a porous surface, it really bleeds a lot. So that's why I keep shifting back and forth between those 2 pens. My journaling says, after 1 semester of commuting 10 hours per week, Liv moved into this old house close to Dell. She has 4 roommates and a pocket full of dreams. I just have to extend that line a wee little bit. I wasn't sure what I was going to say there. I got up to, she has 4 roommates, and I didn't know what else to say, so I just thought that up off the top of my head and thought it sounded kind of fun and hopeful and a little silly, and yeah, so I like it. It sounds good. So this page is looking really great. I'm loving it, and I'm feeling like it might be done, but let's add just a little bit of splatter. I really love adding splatter around where my confetti pieces are because it just helps confetti pieces feel a little bit more at home, a little bit less conspicuous. So I've got a couple of pieces of packaging here that I'm going to mask off my project so I don't get stray splatter in places where I don't want it to be. And I'm using Heidi Swapp Color Shine. I'm using the black color. And I'm just going to dip my little nozzle in there and get a little bit. You really don't need much. And I'm using my fan brush. I'm just tapping my fan brush. I'm just going to get a little bit more load up my brush and just tap, tap, tap. And this creates a very fine sprinkling. As you can see, it's very, very fine sprinkling of splatter. And I've just decided to add it in a couple of more places than just those 3. So I'll put some over here as well. So I'm going to show you how that looks up close. And then there are some photos coming as well. But before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of my videos, as well as a monthly live stream, behind the scenes videos of my room and my process. And thanks to you as well. So here is the overall layout. I really love how this looks, and look at all of the beautiful texture that ribbon adds to the page. That splatter just looks amazing. I love the title on this one, and I really love how the M goes off to the left on the top and off to the right on the bottom. It provides perfect balance for that title. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. And look at this splatter on this corner. It looks so cute there with those 2 little bits of confetti. So here are some of the other places where you can catch me. Please join our Facebook group for the Kit Club. It is always linked in my information section below. Thanks so much for watching, and have a really great scrappy week.